Sully is always trying to do something. At the beginning, he is trying to break the all-time scare record, and then he is trying to get Boo home. There are multiple subplots that don't tie into the main plot, such as Mike and Roz's rivalry and Mike and Celia's romance. There really isn't a clear theme throughout the movie. Here are several possible themes. A. Don't believe everything you read, hear, or see. That doesn't work because Sully figured out that Boo was non-toxic very early in the film. B. It's important to slow down and enjoy life. That doesn't work because even after the company switches from scream energy to laugh energy, Sully doesn't do anything other than work stuff and interacting with Boo. Once upon a time, there was a scarer named Sully. Every day he scared kids and was a record holder. One day, a human child ends up in the world. Because of that, Sully has to protect Boo from the CDA. Because of that, he finds out that Randall and Waternoose are evil. Until finally, Boo is returned home, Randall is banished, Waternoose is arrested, and Sully becomes CEO. Mike is one of the most central characters, yet is irrelevant to the main plot. His goal throughout the film is to convince Sully that there is more to life than scaring. However, Sully is never convinced of that. Also, Mike is actively trying to discourage Sully from becoming attached to Boo. Sully is used to scaring kids and being a top scarer, and now he has to save a kid and be more secret. The ending is that Sully is the CEO of the company and gets to see Boo regularly, and Randall is gone. This is everything that he wanted at the beginning. He didn't have to sacrifice anything to get it. Boo's age underwent many changes as the film was being written. Her final age was eventually settled on because she was old enough to understand what was going on, but young enough to be fully dependent on Sully. The way that Mike and Sully get back into the human world is not very believable, as they had to enter a kid's room and go through the door, and the room they chose happened to be being scared at the time, and they went into the first room they found because they weren't captured by humans, and it happens to take them to the right place in the factory. This film ties into the common fear that people have as children that a monster lives in their closet. This film underwent many changes from the original version, which focused on a 30-year-old man learning to conquer his childhood fears, each one of which was represented by a specific monster. The original choice was to have the film focus entirely on the relationship between Boo and Sully. This was an obvious choice, as it was a common theme in animated films for the two main characters to bond while on an adventure. Sully becomes very friendly and supportive toward Boo within a couple hours of finding her. His whole desire to break the all-time scare record is thrown out nearly instantly. This film was made to teach the message about how the things that people fear most are often highly misunderstood, and the fear of monsters in the closet is a very common fear in children. Why would Sully go to Mike after he caught Boo? I feel like going to the CDA would be much more logical, since Sully knew that Mike was on a date and wasn't interested. Even if Sully doesn't want to ruin Waternoose's reputation, Sully knows nothing about the Scream Extractor project, and even if there was some other reason that Sully didn't trust the CDA, it would still be more logical to take Boo to his apartment, where there is far less potential of being seen or of Boo escaping. Even if Sully doesn't succeed, it is highly likely that the CDA would find out about the Scream Extractor on their own, given that they have their highest-ranking agent working at the company and viewing all of the confidential information. Also, the CDA would definitely get suspicious about widespread scare layoffs due to scares being unnecessary. The idea behind this movie was first conceived back in 1994 at a lunch meeting where the top Pixar executives discussed ideas for the next feature film. Sully's final test is that he has to escape Randall and Waternoose and get Boo home. However, he acquired the motivation for that very early in the movie, and he accomplishes the task quite easily. It sure is convenient that A. Sully gets to the human village in Nepal, B. Mike is in Boo's bedroom when Randall and Fungus capture him, C. Sully and Mike discover that laughter is better energy than screaming, and D. Sully and Mike find Boo's door in the gigantic door vault. This film uses the building block of the person you think is the main antagonist, Randall, is actually not the main antagonist, who's Waternoose. However, this doesn't work, as Randall is not redeemed at the end. Don't get me wrong, this film is great for young children. It has a clear theme, which is presented in a way that children will remember while also not being strictly educational. However, this film is only good for young children, while there aren't really any takeaways for anyone else. It isn't really possible to apply this film to the monster in your closet fear that most people had during childhood, as Boo experienced much more than a normal human child would. This contrasts with Toy Story, where Andy didn't suspect at all that his toys were alive, and his experience was completely normal and similar to what a real child would experience. Sully has to get Boo back to the human world to ensure that Randall and Waternoose don't capture her. Note that Mike wasn't mentioned.